welcome back to Garagematters. It's January 2025 and it's tax season. Come on over here and let me show you what to look for if you're debating on whether to spend your hard-earned cash on a used vehicle or a down payment on a brand new vehicle. Now what I like doing when I go look at cars is bringing along a flashlight. You need a strong flashlight, that way you can see if there's any issues with the car. Now for our two test vehicles, we've got this 2010 Nissan Frontier. And over here, we also got a 1994 Toyota Celica GT4. So these are going to be our two test vehicles. We'll pretend that they're on the lot right now. And I'll show you guys what I'm looking for to make sure that I get a good deal on these vehicles. Now when it comes to used vehicles, you can't really expect them to be brand new and immaculate. So this one's kind of dirty because I've been driving it around. But basically, for me, what I like to do is just taking a look at the body on the sides like this to make sure it's nice and straight. That way I know it hasn't been in a wreck. I'll do the same thing on this other side right here. Look down the body lines right here. Not seeing anything that's dented. So it looks nice and straight. So I can tell that this side of the vehicle hasn't been in an accident yet. Now another thing you can do is look behind this quarter panel right here. Sometimes they'll do the repair on the outside, but you're not going to know it's been repaired unless you look back beneath this fender well. So that's why I like bringing a flashlight. So I can shine a flashlight and look back behind here. If there's been any repairs done, you'll be able to see it back behind here. Now another good reason why you want to look back behind here is to see if there's any rust. So looking around here, there doesn't appear to be like any rust. Hopefully the camera angle can see back behind here because it's like backwards right now and I can't really see the camera. Now while we're back here, we'll take a look at the frame. So all this rust right here, it's just surface rust and I'm not concerned about it. How do I know it's surface rust? Well, you just look at it, look down here, make sure it's not rotted through. So on the underside, it's not rotted through. And then what I like to do is just tap it. That's why I bring a flashlight. Or you could use the backside of a screwdriver or a small little ball peen hammer and just tap it. If it sounds like that, then it's good. If it's a deep sound, then that means that it's probably dry rotted all the way through. So you want to go ahead and just avoid that vehicle. So while we're back here, let's take a look at this tire. We want to do an inspection of this tire real quick to make sure that we're not going to be buying new tires as soon as we buy this vehicle. So we'll take a look at this tire right here. And it doesn't look like it's dry rotted or anything. So there's no dry rot. We'll take a look at the wear indicator. So on most of these tires, they have like a wear indicator to let you know when to change the tires out. So down in here is a little bar right across the tread. So that little bar right there lets you know that this tire still has plenty of life left. Now when the tread right here wears down to this bar right here, that's when you know you gotta go ahead and change these tires out. But for me, I really hate hydroplaning my vehicles, so I go ahead and change my tires well before they even get to these wear bars. Now we know that there's plenty of tread on this tire and the sidewall looks good. Now we have to figure out how old is this tire. Well, if I was really curious about how the age of this tire, I'll come down here, find these 4 digits down here. 29 and 23. So the 29, those first 2 digits mean that's the week of the year it was manufactured in. And then the last 2 digits, 23, that's the year it was manufactured. So this tire was manufactured on the 29th week of 2023. Now since we're still back on this tire, let's go ahead and check out these brakes. It's really dark in there. Good thing I have my flashlight. Here's the brakes. We'll take a look at the brakes. And what I like doing is, especially with these OEM wheels, they have these really big gaps in here. I'm just gonna shine the flashlight through the side like this. Take a look at the brake pads and see how much wear is left on those brake pads. Now once you're done looking at these brakes right here, you can get a look at these brake rotors. So you could do a quick inspection of the brakes and rotors by just using a flashlight and just looking inside of this wheel right here. Now another thing that I like to do is try to look at these shocks, but it's kind of hard on this truck right here because I can't see it from here. And this is totally up to you, but you might have to like get on the ground, on the concrete, and then just look at these shocks right here. So what I'm looking for is just oil. If I see oil on the shocks right here, then I know they're bad. And I'm just gonna do the same thing on all four corners, checking these shocks to see if they're leaking. If they're leaking, I'm gonna stay away from this vehicle because I know it's gonna cost about $1,000 to go ahead and swap them out. And then everything that I did on this side of this truck, I'm gonna repeat on the opposite side of this truck. Let's go ahead and take a look at the interior of this truck. Interior looks good. It's a used vehicle, so I can't expect too much. What I want to do is just check these seat belts. Sometimes I've seen seat belts on used vehicles where they've been cut and stitched back together. Totally horrible on those dealers that sell vehicles with already cut seat belts where they've been sewn back together. But what I like to do if it's a used vehicle, check all these seat belts. Make sure they're in good operational condition and they're not messed up. And then I'm just going to do the same thing for this one, that one, and passenger and the driver's side. Back here, I really don't care too much, but I will check all these window switches right here to make sure that they work. Because if I'm sitting back here or I got my kids back here, I want to make sure these windows work so I'm not having to replace a window regulator. Do the same thing on this side right here. Just check these windows. Make sure they work. And that's pretty much it for back here. I really don't care about all this stuff, but we'll hop in the front seats and I'll show you what I like to look for. Alright, same thing up here. I want to make sure all my controls work. Test all the windows right here. Passenger works. And back ones roll back down, roll back up. All good. So all the windows work, controls work. And then I'm gonna hop inside here, take a look at inside here. So all these controls right here, I'm gonna test all these controls, make sure they work. Windows work. That side works as well. Cargo lamp. Well, that's where the tailgate, but can't see it. Anyhow, come in here, start this truck up. And then what I'm concerned about is any check engine lights up here. So with this vehicle on, there's no check engine lights. So that light is because I don't have my seatbelt on. That is low tire pressure light. Not concerned about that. And this one here is for your airbag. So it's something wrong with your secondary restraint system. So it doesn't mean it's your airbag. It could be something else within the secondary restraint system that's causing this light to come on. So I'm not really worried about that because that's what your seatbelt's for. Even though it's winter time, I'm going to turn all these controls on, turn the AC on, make sure the AC works, turn the heater on, make sure the heater works, the defrost, make sure it works as well, go through all my controls right here, windshield wipers, make sure all my lights work, and hazards, gotta make sure those work. Alright, everything looks like it's operational in here. Another thing I want to do is check these interior lights as well. Alright, and that's what I like doing when I'm inside this vehicle. Oh, we need to see how much mileage this vehicle has. So 144,000 miles. Alright, now so inside the engine bay, this air filter, since it's super easy to check, I guess you can check it too, but I guess it's totally up to like whoever's selling you the car if they're gonna let you like open all these things up. But it's really easy to do. Just pop these two clips, look inside, pull this out real quick, look on the bottom side, looks nice and clean, put it back in, and then clamp it back on. And then the next thing I want to do is just look down into this engine bay right here. And you need a flashlight, but what I'm doing is just looking down at all these hoses right here. Make sure nothing's leaking. And then I'm just gonna come around the whole entire engine bay. Do the same thing on the other side. Make sure that none of these hoses are leaking. What I like looking at is these radiator hoses. These radiator hoses, especially in a 2010. This truck's only got 144,000 miles, but you look right here. This hose still looks really good for being, see, 15 years old now, since it's 2025. So this is a 15-year-old hose, and it still looks like it's in really good condition. So I'm looking at all these radiator hoses. I'm gonna come over here, and then I'm gonna check all these fluids right here. That's why I like bring the flashlight. Just put the flashlight up against here, and then you can see the fluid levels. Do the same thing for his power steering. Take a quick look real quick. So the upper line is hot, the lower one is cold. So this vehicle is cold right now, so you know it's good. So really handy using a flashlight and bringing a flashlight. Then you can look back in behind here as well. Make sure nothing's leaking. And for the Nissan Frontiers in particular, those two fittings right here, these are aftermarket. So if you have a Frontier and you haven't changed these out yet and they're plastic, these will eventually end up breaking on you. What I did was have it break on me, so I went ahead and swapped them out. So these are aluminum, so they're not gonna break anymore. Sometimes just barely touching them, they'll end up breaking. But yeah, that's pretty much all I do for the engine. And this engine looks kind of dusty, but I'll show you a trick that you can do to make it look all greasy, black and shiny, and kind of like how you see when you go look at those cars at the dealers, secondhand dealers. So we'll come here. Let's see. Let's grab some WD-40. Yeah, we'll grab some of these microfiber towels right here, and then we'll head on back. All right, we'll go ahead and head on back. So I'll just give you a quick demonstration real quick. I'm just gonna do this quick piece right here. So what they normally do is just cheap stuff like this, WD-40, super cheap. Gonna dress up this engine real quick. Spray it on here. Take the microfiber towel and just wipe it down. Boom. All right. So this is what they like doing. I don't like doing this to my vehicles because I feel like once you wipe it down, this is kind of greasy and stuff like that. So it's gonna collect all this dust and dirt all over again. Then you're gonna end up doing it over and over again. That's why I don't do it. But there you go. That is what those secondhand dealers do to detail these engine bays, to make it look nice, shiny, and black, and like it's brand new and nothing's gonna break on you. So that's a cool little trick you can do, really cheap and simple if you want to clean up your engine bay. And then the next thing I like to do is take a look at this battery. So sometimes when you go to check out a vehicle and you say, hey, can you start up? I want to hear it start up. They bring out the key, they give you the key, and you go crank it up, but nothing happens. What I like to do is come look at this battery as well. See if they're giving me a new battery or old battery. So this battery, the first two digits, 11. So that was the month that this battery was manufactured. And the second two digits, well, the two last digits, 24, that's the year that this battery is manufactured. So this battery was manufactured in November of 2024. So I know this is a pretty brand new battery, 2 months old. All right, so after we looked at all of this engine bay, we looked at all this stuff. Oh, let's go ahead and open this up as well. So you can open up this radiator cap when it's cold only. If you open it when it's hot, it's gonna spill out everywhere and you'll probably end up burning yourself. So what you can do is open this up real quick. Just like that. You hear that hissing? It was pressurized because I had it running earlier. but it's not hot. But you still want to cover it up with a rag or something before you open it up. But I know it's not going to spill out everywhere because it's not really that hot no more. So what I like doing is, this is really easy and you can do it. It takes only about less than a minute to do, but I like doing this so I know I don't have a blown head gasket. So I'll pop this open real quick. Look down here. Make sure that it's not milky or anything, but that antifreeze down there, the radiator fluid is nice and green. It's not milky or discolored. So I know that at the very least, this head gasket is still good on this 2010 Nissan Frontier. And if you join us for the first time, I do have a series on how to change out a head gasket on a 2007 Toyota Camry. So make sure you go watch that series if you want to learn more about changing head gaskets. Now let's go ahead and start up this engine and see what it sounds like. Hop into here. Turn the key on. All right. All right. Now with this engine running, what I want to listen for is any crazy knocking sounds. Now to me, this engine sounds normal. You're going to get just a little ticking from these older vehicles, but it's perfectly normal. And then again, with this flashlight, just look at these hoses again. Make sure nothing's leaking. Now that you got this antifreeze like going through this whole engine, the oil's pumping through this engine, just give it a quick look over. Nothing's leaking. Take a look down these belts. Do the same thing over here. And then once you're done with your inspection and everything looks good, you go ahead and turn the engine off and go ahead and either make your purchase or not make your purchase. Now, I do need to talk about test drives. So you do need to test drive your vehicles. The thing about not driving your vehicles is that you don't really know how the vehicle drives like. So what I like doing is driving it like I stole it. And I really mean that. So you have to do that in order to test the vehicle, especially if it's a used vehicle. So what I like doing is just stepping on the gas as hard as I can. That way I'm loading up the engine. So if something's gonna break, it's gonna break before I make the purchase. Same thing with the brakes. I smash on the brakes as hard as I can. So if something is gonna break, it could break. But also, if you smash on the brakes and you notice the steering wheel shaking like this when you smash on the brakes, then that's a telltale sign that you need to change out your brakes and rotors. So I'm not gonna purchase that vehicle just because of that, because that's gonna cost about $1,000 if you take it to a dealership. So just fair warning, if it shakes like that, you're gonna have to change your brakes and rotors. Now, another reason why I like to smash on this gas pedal when I'm driving it is because you're also testing out that transmission. So this is a 5-speed transmission on this truck. So when you're stepping on this gas pedal and it's going like that, what you're doing is you're putting a lot of load on this engine, and you want to make sure that when it changes gears, that it changes gears smoothly and it's not making any weird crunchy sounds. Now when I'm talking about crunchy sounds, it's like metal on metal. So if it sounds like metal on metal, then your transmission is probably not good. Or if it doesn't shift correctly and the vehicle jerks like that, your transmission is probably not good, or it's probably on the way out. Now this is an automatic transmission. Let's go over here to the Celica GT4. I want to show you something about these manual transmissions. Hop in this manual transmission. Hashtag save the manuals. All right, take a look down at this floorboard real quick. 3 pedals, 1, 2, 3. All right, so now for these manual transmissions, what you have to do is same thing. You're gonna have to floor it. So the reason why you want to floor it in these gears, like going from first to second, That's probably a little too crazy, but you gotta definitely do it from second to third gear. So the reason why you want to do it on these older vehicles is because you want to test out the clutch. So when you're putting a load on this engine, you're going to test the clutch to see if it starts slipping. So if it starts slipping when the RPMs get up to about maybe about 4,000 RPMs, or it could be as soon as 3,000 RPMs. But it just depends on how much life you got left on your clutch. So if you notice the RPMs going up, but your speedometer is staying the same, then you know that your clutch is going out. So that's why I say when you're driving these cars, test driving them, you gotta drive them like you stole it. That way you're putting the load on the engine to know that these vehicles are still in good condition. Go ahead and give it some gas. And then one last thing about driving these vehicles. So if you're driving these vehicles, either one, it's like any vehicle you're driving. If you're driving these vehicles, you gotta drive them on the interstate as well, because more likely we're gonna be on the interstate, the highways, the freeways, whatever you want to call them, expressways. So this car, this speedometer goes up to 180. So most of the speed limit is about 70, 75, sometimes 60. So you want to take it out on the freeway. That way you can test them out. So if you notice that the steering wheel or the car feels like it's floating when you're going over bridges or taking like turns on the interstate, like minor turns or like bumps in the road, and your vehicle feels like it's floating, then that is a good indicator that your shocks need to be replaced. I'd also stay from vehicles like that, because that's gonna be about $1,000 to like swap out those parts. Alright, now that was the Celica GT4. We talked about the manual transmission real quick. Make sure you give it some gas, drive it really hard to check that clutch to see if the clutch is going out. This vehicle, do the same thing, do all your checks on it. So all these checks right here that I did on both these vehicles, I did them without having to call a mechanic or have like someone else come look at this vehicle. Basically, it's really simple. You just look around the vehicle, make sure that nothing is weird looking, nothing's damaged, dented, but it's a used vehicle, so obviously it's gonna have some light scratches and dents here and there, but it's alright. What I'm concerned about is the engine. Make sure the engine sounds good, the hoses are good, nothing's leaking, and make sure you check underneath the vehicle as well. So it's nice and dark, but that's why you always bring a flashlight. Nothing on the ground, so I know that this vehicle doesn't leak oil from underneath the engine, so it's a good engine or a good signs of, you know, care and maintenance on this vehicle. So makes me feel more confident about purchasing an older vehicle that is a used vehicle. Now that might seem like it was really long, but I like being really thorough when I spend my money to like purchase vehicles. I try to be as thorough as I can, but hopefully some of these tips and tricks and what I look for is going to help you guys out to make sure that you're purchasing a vehicle that's going to last you for a long time, not one of those lemons. Remember, join us next time on Garage Matters and hit that like and subscribe button.